Yeah.
All right, so gonna move on just a little bit. Now, one thing I want to do, what I like to do, is even though we don't have too much to talk about with the Hornets, I want to see what your perspective on the Hornets is, bringing in an outside perspective, so that the fans aren't always looking at us like I'm tired of you guys saying X, Y, Z. So, what's your opinion on where the Hornets are, where they're going, what they've been, the Kemba fiasco, all that?
Well, for one, first and foremost, I like the Hornets. For me, I'm very big on economics. So when the team does good, it's good for the city.
Yeah.
So
wait, say that one more time.
So
please look in the camera and say that one more time.
So when the team performs well, it's good for the city overall. Holistically, you look at it like that. I have a hard time grasping how people who live in the city of Charlotte root against Charlotte.
Hey, let him talk.
Go ahead.
So for me, that's kind of how I built my whole premise on how I feel about the team as a whole. As far as the Kemba situation, it's bittersweet because him as an athlete, his talent, his caliber, what he brings to the table. You hate to see him in a system where he wasn't really being provided the pieces around him in order to succeed. Now, that's a cliche statement because now with him in Boston, he has Tatum and he has Jaylen Brown. Now we're gonna see what can he do when the pieces around him. So I think this is gonna be a good experiment for us to say, okay, we had a star, didn't put pieces around him. Now he's in a system where pieces are around him. This is gonna kind of be like the what could have been, right? So when he's in Boston, we'll see what could have been. As far as how they are now, I really don't expect much out of them, especially with the East getting tougher. I know you got Miles Bridges, and he's a young athletic guy, but outside of that, I'm not really too excited about the roster that they have.
That's fair.
I think that Jordan, I think he could have done a little bit better job with the pieces that he's brought in. Hornets, for the most part, overall, we've had some really good draft selections. We've been right there to pick up some key pieces, and I think we dropped the ball on it a few years.
That's fair.
We missed out on Damian Lillard.
We
missed out. So I think drafting is a big thing with the Hornets. And I honestly, I don't have them making the playoffs this year.
So let me ask you a question. In your opinion, in your honest opinion, is Michael Jordan a good owner?
I don't think so. And I think that it's even harder for him as far as his expectations as an owner, considering how good of a player he was. When you are arguably the greatest player to ever play the game, I think the level of expectation for you to carry over that greatness into other things you do is expected. And for him, not only is he not great at what he does, I personally believe, the Hornets, we should have been a better franchise at this point with the draft selections that we've been positioned to have, the players we could have drafted, and obviously, he's not the only one making decisions. He has a team around him.
Can you say that part again?
I think he gets a lot of the blame, but Jordan's not the only one that are making these decisions. He has a team around him. He has an organization around him where they sit down, they analyze, they assess, and they look at the talent that's coming in, and collectively as a group, they make the decision on who they're going to draft. So, he hires the people and puts them in the positions to make the right call, and in a lot of cases they haven't done it. So the blame is to be shared.
Gotcha.
So now, with all that being said, with him being the owner, do you feel like he needs to be more hands-on than what he's perceived to be?
In what way though? Like, as far as hands-on, as far as hand-picking or mentoring and like what?
Well, okay, I'll say, let's take Dallas. Let's take the Mavericks, for instance. If you go to a Dallas Mavericks game, who do you see there?
You see Mark Cuban there. I mean,
so do you think Jordan should be more visible?
I think that's tricky. I think with Jordan, when he first was with the Hornets, I used to see him there on the bench a lot and with the team. But with him, he's not Mark Cuban. He's one of the greatest players ever to play the game. Yeah. So he has that intimidation factor on plays. Like, can you imagine being on the Hornets roster and you miss a dunk and then you look over and Jordan's staring? Like, it's not the same if Mark Cuban is staring at you, because Jordan was like, I would have 360 that thing back. So, for him, maybe him not being as close to the players, is something that he probably feels is in the best interest of the players.
Okay.
What he does behind the scenes, there's no telling. I know that when he was with the Wizards organization, just in hearing articles and things like that, you heard a lot of players that like Kwame Brown, where he felt like his confidence was shot because Jordan was a tough critic on him.
Let me say in Kwame Brown's case, it may be a bit of a cop out. We're talking about it in a famous person.
No,
Kwame.
I mean, but no, that's true.
I think I could have affected Kwame Brown's confidence.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So if I'm Michael Jordan, I hire you as a GM tomorrow, and I give you 4 or 5 years to fix the team. What do you do, Aaron?
Oh man, 4 or 5 years to fix the team. I think one thing that you have to do is you got to go out and you got to get some experienced veterans on the team. I think you got to get, like I like Marvin Williams. I think he's a veteran. I think he's a player that could really pull the young guys in. But you got to spend money, man. You got to spend a little bit of money. I know Charlotte is a small market, and a lot of the players, they want the bigger cities, they want the lights, camera, and action. But when have we spent real big money on a big name that's really gonna bring them to Charlotte?
Oh wait, we spent plenty of money.
No. I said on a big name. Yeah, we said I mean, you got what's Batum? Yeah, you got his contract. So I mean, but you look at the Hornets when we were the Bobcats, the most successful years that we had when we were in the playoffs. You had your Steven Jacksons, you had your Raymond Feltons, you had those guys where they were the nucleus of the team. And I think you get a lot of that back into the organization, and you may have a good shot to kind of, look at the example. But I think you got to spend.
Now, has there, and let's go to the last 5, 6, 7 years, has there been a Hornets team that you believe had 1 or 2 more pieces, possibly could have done better than what they did? And I ask that because Jordan is on record quite a few times saying the reason why he's not willing to shell out more money is because he doesn't believe that the team can compete, at least for an Eastern Conference title.
Yeah, he's right.
Okay.
Right. I mean, you look at the last few years. You want to even go back the last 7 years. LeBron has been in the finals. Whether it was with the Heat or whether it was with Cleveland. And I personally, and then even you look at the teams that were built in the East Coast to compete against LeBron. Hornets weren't competing with them, the Bostons and teams like that. So he may be right from that standpoint as far as competing, but I mean you never know.
One thing we have to mention, since we are talking about the Hornets now, there was an article where it was a Kemba Walker interview. Basically, in so many words, he acknowledged that it made no sense for the Hornets to go over the luxury tax to sign him.
No,
he himself said that.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to gloss over that.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
Somehow, some way, the response is still being made about Jordan not willing to pay. Kemba has, in the last couple of weeks, said they weren't going to win. I didn't see myself winning. I wanted to go where I saw myself winning. It really wasn't about the money. And it's still being.
But Jordan is still.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jordan, it's tough. I mean, it's honestly, it's tough, And then you look at a lot of teams on the East Coast, like some of your top tier teams now, with Philly, right? Philly went through the whole process. They did their team through drafting. You look at Milwaukee. Milwaukee has the Greek freak. They did theirs through drafting, right? So
it's the nucleus.
It's the nucleus.
It's what sets the precedence for your
exactly,
organization.
And that's where the Hornets have really missed out on key opportunities because we haven't been able to draft that nucleus to where
spot on.
3 to 4 years from now. We have an Anthony Davis that we can build around.
And another thing is, you'll get casual fans who be like, man, how come they don't go out and and they'll insert a big name? Yeah. Well, the other team has to be interested in the pieces and actually pull something off. So.
Exactly.
And it's just it's the whole Donovan Mitchell thing. We wanted Donovan Mitchell.
Right.
Malik fell. We took Malik.
Right.
For instance, that
really hates Malik.
I'm not a Malik Monk fan. I've never been. But I respect the kid. I'm not going to disrespect him. And then the year that they traded that first round pick for Marco Bellinelli, they were looking at Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had him in for 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
They didn't pick him.
Yeah.
In the year they took Frank, they had Devin Booker in a few times. Didn't take him. Yeah. And it's things like this that it's that second guessing yourself. That got the Hornets into this position now, and they got Rich Cho fired. Quite frankly.
Yeah. So one more question. What would you like to see the Hornets do going forward? Do you want to see a rebuild? Do you want to see them compete for that 7th or 8th seed and we continue to stay at 12, 13, like
Purgatory.
what do you want to see?
Well, at this point, immediately speaking, I would love to see them make a playoff push, whether it's 7th or 8th. Because at the end of the day, I think that the city can appreciate that. Whenever the Hornets make the playoffs, you're selling out the arena, right? I mean,
but that ain't happening this season.
It's not. Oh, it's definitely not happening. But I'm saying, from an optimistic point of view, saying, hey, what would I like to see the Hornets do this year? I would love to see them make the playoffs, even if they squeeze in at a 5.
It's funny. It's funny you said that because I was actually randomly thinking about this the other day. Like, and please don't anybody mistake this as me predicting they are. But it'll be a cool little middle finger to a lot of people if they did make the playoffs.
Oh, yeah,
which
absolutely.
I'm not predicting they
Absolutely.
are. Again, let me be very clear
Absolutely.
about that. But if they messed around and made the 8th or 7th seed, there's a
Like,
lot.
It's a lot of people that won't like that.
There's a lot of people that wouldn't like that. So,
I mean,
Terry averaging 20, Bacon averaging another 20.
I just think that they lost their best player when the East Coast got a lot stronger. It's like, the East is a lot stronger.
It's not only we got worse; it's the East got
a
better.
lot stronger. The East got better. So
Everybody
it's like,
got better for the most part in the East, except us.
So I hope Terry Rozier is just one of those players where he's not like one of the New England Patriot type of players where he was in a good system under Brad Stevens and they were able to kind of use him to the best ability. Now there's a high expectation with him coming into Charlotte, and it's kind of like he vanishes because I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope that Terry Rozier can average 18 to 20 points a game.
Oh, he's gonna need to.
And just stay consistent as a consistent scorer. Because that's going to definitely be needed.
No doubt.